Hey guys, this is a little response to Thunderfoot's latest video entitled The Subtle Art of Self-Delusion. Now, his recent videos regarding Islam have been pretty well picked clean, so I want to focus on one topic for which part of his latest video serves as a good jump-off point. But to begin this, I'm first going to address a portion of part 21 of his Why Do People Laugh at Creationists series that he decided to feature in this video in order to ask us why it was okay for him to say this stuff 2 years ago, but it isn't okay now.
Militarily, Islam is a non-threat. Their most successful attack involved box cutters, while any modern nation could have, if they had a similarly low valuing of human life, reduced any Islamic country to ash in days to weeks. The only threat of Islam to the West is if we allow them to import their values, such as censorship.
The answer is that it wasn't okay 2 years ago. It's an inflammatory generalization of the worst kind to suggest that the terrorism on 9/11 was an attack by Islam, not 19 hijackers, not an extremist terrorist group, but Islam. And to compare this entire religion with its billion-plus practitioners in countries all over the world to nation-states in the West, political constructs, is an illegitimate proposition that fosters a dangerous and unjustified us versus them mentality. Not our beliefs versus their beliefs, or our ideals versus their ideals, but our people versus their people. The fact that Thunderfoot has continued to generalize in this way, and that he's presented this statement as an argument he still represents, leads me to conclude that this wasn't just sloppy wording on his part, but the way he actually thinks. And this is the type of rhetoric that leads me to what I really want to respond to.
Well, evidently the argument hasn't changed. Well, maybe people just have this sort of internal keep the small time peace mechanism functioning in their minds so it tells them when you're dealing with a group that's hyper offended by everything like Scientology, that you need to adjust the level of criticism to take into account their irrational hyper offendability. And therefore that while on paper I may have levelled equally harsh criticisms at many attributes of many religions, it's only Islam that people feel they need to distance themselves from, because Islam is the very squeaky wheel that needs the smoothing, non-critical grease. So basically it's not bigotry in these people's minds to rag on Christians, Catholics, creationists, because basically they never really get worked up about it. But it's clearly bigotry to do the same thing to Islam, because merely drawing their profit will get them to burn down embassies and so on. But tell me, who is actually being equal in their treatment of the religions here?
It is my opinion that Islam should be criticized a little more cautiously than other religions, but it has nothing at all to do with Muslim hypersensitivity or the fact that Muslims have set fire to embassies. It has a lot to do with the fact that, in general, Muslims are visibly different from the majority of people in the West, and especially the people who hold the most power and influence here. That makes it much easier for them to be demonized and to become victims of crime and discrimination in the Western world. In the wake of 9/11, not only Muslims, but people who were mistaken for Muslims, such as Hindus and Sikhs because of their dress and the color of their skin, were the victims of a surge of violence and hate crimes. These crimes continue to occur in Europe and North America today, bolstered by the fact that Western nations are currently occupying 2 Islamic states. Indeed, I think it's apparent that the existence of physical differences, as well as the perception that Muslims of the world can be viewed as a unified enemy, were key elements that enabled the Bush administration to trick the majority of Americans into thinking that Iraq was tied to the 9/11 attacks. My position is not that you need to use kid gloves when talking about Islam. By all means, criticize the religion, its doctrines, its texts, criticize the actions of Islamic states or the ideas that some followers of Islam may hold, and do so as strongly as you see fit. However, we should be very careful in our language and our rhetoric when it comes to generalizing people who represent a minority in this part of the world, and a minority that is already viewed with distrust by many. It's simply irresponsible to speak of Islam's military capabilities, or to talk about who the Muslims have threatened. It's extremely important to avoid propagating a mentality that could lead to intolerance, discrimination, or violence against those who can't hide their skin color, their accents, or who are inclined to dress a certain way because of their religious beliefs. This is why I feel it's necessary to make a concerted effort to promote tolerance of Muslims as people, despite disagreeing with their religion. And though many Muslims may pray to, as Thunderfoot put it, an icon of religious discrimination 5 times a day, they're not the ones lecturing here. I am. Thanks for watching.